Hello. In this video, I'm going to take you through the salary structure tab. Now, salary structure is where you define and assign the salary structure for your organization to your employees. Once you click on salary structure, it'll take you to the components tab. We have divided the components into four main headers, as you can see. To start with base. Base is just the most common components like basic, HRA, PF, ESI, and special allowance. I've edited the name special allowance just to show you that this can be edited. You can edit the formula for basic or HRA or the name for special allowance here. So for example, if my basic is not 40% of CTC, but it is say 50% of CTC, all I need to do is change it here. Similarly, for basic, you can either, for HRA, you can put a flat amount, which is say 80,000 per year, or it can be derived from a formula. Once you have finished your base settings, move to recurring. Recurring tab includes all the components which recur on a month-on-month basis. For example, your medical allowance or leave travel or conveyance or even contributions like gratuity or medical insurance for your employees, for example. Now, we have provided you with a few pre-filled recurring components with some basic settings. You can always change this for your organization. For example, if you do not have a vehicle allowance in your organization, you can just switch this to no. But if you have something called a medical allowance, but it is not 15,000, you can just change this value to whatever that suits your organization. So just hit on edit. A window will open up. You can change any of the fields you want here. You can rename this or change the component type. It could be either a reimbursement or a contribution. If it is not included in CTC, you can make that setting as well. Just change the toggle to no. Since it's an allowance, mostly the proof is not required, but if it is required, you can keep the toggle as yes. Since again, this is an allowance, it's mostly would be a taxable component, but if it is not for your organization, you can keep this as no. So by all these settings, for example, if the taxable is set as no, employees will receive this in their month-on-month salary, but the amount of 20,000 will not be calculated in their annual tax. So I'm going to keep this as yes. Individual override is an option wherein you want to override this amount only for specific users. So if this is on, then in that case, if an employee for the entire organization, if the allowance is 20,000, but for 5 people, say it is 25,000 or 30,000, you can use this override option to just change those specific fields for those specific employees. LOP dependent field is if this is switched on, if any employee has LOPs for a certain month, the monthly amount of medical allowance will also prorate based on the loss of pay days. So depending on your organization requirement, you can change this setting. And it's important these are defined right in the beginning before you assign your salary structure. Also, we have an option to make this slab wise. So for example, I want to make this CTC wise. I want to say 0 to 3 lakhs, the amount is 20,000, then 3 lakhs to 5 lakhs, the amount is 30,000, and so on and so forth. So I can use a slab wise differentiation in terms of the value as well. We've also given an option to differentiate these values based on grade. So for example, I have created a few grades in my company profile. If I have a medical allowance, I have one structure in the organization, and my component varies only grade wise, I can use this option. So for example, I'll say for my G4 grade, I want the value to be 50,000, for G3, 40,000, etc. So either you can give a flat amount or slab based on CTC or slab based on grade. So all the allowances or all the recurring components have these same options which you need to define for each of the components. Say once that is done, if you feel you need to create a new component which is not here, just go to create and take care of the settings and save it. If you feel any of these components are not applicable, you can just switch the components off. For example, if gratuity is not applicable or it's not part of the CTC of an employee, you can just switch this off and it will not appear in the drop down when you create your salary structure. So similar to recurring components, we also have variables. So for example, the system has provided two variables, which is annual bonus or monthly incentive. You can create quarterly bonuses or any of the other variable components that you want to create. They have similar options in terms of if you want to include in CTC or do you want to keep it as taxable. Formula help is similar. You can put a flat amount or you can put a percentage of basic or CTC. Again, there are options to create by slab or grade. So once you have defined your variable components, save those and move on to ad hoc. Now, ad hocs are ad hoc payments that are given month on month. They don't really appear in the CTC. So, for example, if I have a referral bonus that I want to pay out once any time of the year, I'm just going to create a component and save it. Similarly, if I have deductions that will need to be made, for example, the provide fund, all I need to do is enter the name of the component and save it. So this will appear in the run payroll tab and not really show in the CTC structure of the employee. So there I have defined my components. This is again a one-time activity. You will not need to keep doing this over and over again. Once your components are defined, go to the structure tab. In structure, we have provided just one sample structure. It'll look something like this, but you can either edit this and just add the rest of the components that you want to add to your structure. So I'm adding medical, phone, and I'm going to add an annual bonus, which is 10% of the CTC, and save. So this is one structure created. But if I have 2-3 structure in my organization which which have different components, all I need to do is create a new structure and just follow the same steps again. So this is the new structure. I'm going to edit this and I'm going to call this my sales structure, and add the additional components. For example, I want to add a monthly incentive here and save. So that is it. That's my structure. So that is how, it's as simple as that. Define your components and create your salary structure. Once that is done, you need to apply this to your employees. So click on apply salary structure. It will list down all the employees and the CTCs that have been entered previously. If the CTC information is not there, go to the overview section and add the CTCs. It is important that the CTC information is added before you assign a structure, because otherwise the structure breakup will just show as 0. So I'm going to go back to structure, and if I'm going to use only one for my entire organization, so say I just rename this to general salary structure. If I'm going to use only one for my entire organization, I'm going to use the set as company default option. And this will be applicable to every single user of the organization. And as and when a new joinee comes, you need not assign a structure to them again. The company default will be already applied. So as you can see, 10 employees have, the structure has been applied to 10 employees. If I want to see what the breakup looks like, I go to overview and this is the breakup. As you can see, Harmanpreet does not have a CTC entered, and that's why her breakup is showing as 0. But what I can do is go to edit, add the CTC for Harmanpreet, which is say 600,000. I enter the effective date and save. So as soon as I do this, the structure will be automatically assigned to her. There you go. So you see annual bonus amount was there, medical, phone, and then special allowance is the balancing amount. So it's as simple as that. The PF number was missing or PAN was missing for these employees, and that's why it's not showing up. Another way to add the CTC is using the import option. So if you have many users who do not have a CTC in the system, just go to import, download the format, and import the CTC into Kredily, and then assign the salary structure to them. We also have provided an export option here. You can select all the users or select a few users and just hit export. And all the salary structures, which is this exact breakup, will be exported in a Excel format. As you can see, PF employer is also showing up here. This is based on the settings that you have done previously in the PF and ESI settings. So that is why it is important that you finish all the settings tab settings in the settings menu before you assign the salary structure to your employees. As soon as the structure is assigned, the employees will be able to see their respective structure from their logins. So just to show you, I'm going to take you to the user login. Virat can see his salary structure, and it was applied on effective from 1st March. This is what his salary breakup looks like. This is an administrator tab, and that's why you can see revise, but Virat will not be able to see this tab. So yes, that's as simple as that. Define your components first, create a structure, and just go ahead and apply. That's it. So once this is done, so your settings is done, your declarations are approved, investment declarations are approved for your employees, and your structure is signed. The next task, which is run payroll, is all that is pending, and that is an activity you will take on month. So do watch that video next, and thank you for watching this.